Welcome to OWAD today. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue exploring some Neolithic concepts. Today's crop is li, millet. And according to scholars, millet was the main dietary grain or cereal, considered as a cereal, before rice became the dominant. Like we know East Asian countries, they are rice eaters, but before rice was abundant, millet was the main feeding, nourishing crop for that part of the world. So Li, simplified traditional, again, they look the same, and it looks pretty complicated, right? So let's unpack. The top left corner is simply the crop. In general terms, we came across this character since we're talking about a Neolithic agricultural stage of human development, and a crop is the main thing for agriculture that we're growing crops, right? So Chinese express crop with this plant symbol that got the above the ground, below the ground, the root, and the branches, the leaves, everything represented by this upturning strokes. And the tip is supposed to be grain-laden leaves or branches of that crop. So this part is the human, what humans are using them for food. So that's crop symbol. And at the bottom, you can see the same as the root symbol repeated again. And that to me is probably an abstract term, and because it's put together with right below the crop symbol, and to keep the style continuation, so it kind of put in the same angle. So that's a style decision. It doesn't necessarily mean it's reflecting reality in any way, right? And that to me seems like a ground level, like of course, the root is already below the ground, and that's some layer below where the crop was growing. And the water symbol underneath it, and the water symbol is made of the mainstream, continuous in the middle, and then the two sides are going to have broken streams, that the side streams are not as mainstream, continuous one. So the water is below this layer of the ground, and then on top of that is the crop. So it seems like by everything on the left side without the right side symbol pronounced shu, and that by itself is already millet. Now somebody add this supposedly knife symbol to the right side of it to make it li, and we end up having the same concept. So what that additional knife icon do? And also this is not a typical knife icon because the knife, as you observe your kitchen knife, I guess, the bottom edge is the sharp one. That's where you use it to cut things. The top is the uncutting edge that you're not going to hurt yourself by accidentally place your hand on top of that, right? Then the middle diagonal line is an additional of this top edge, bottom edge. It's like one extra edge in the middle. What is that? To me, my understanding is there are, throughout the evolution of characters, there could be variations of how knife was expressed. So probably that could be like a localized style of type of knife that somebody tried to differentiate from the generic knife, which only have the top edge and bottom edge, and plus the handle on the top. Somebody tried to add additional line there to differentiate them. But it's one of the varieties of the knife symbol. Anyways, somebody add the knife next to the already millet concept, pronounced as a shu, to make the li end up meaning the same. So what's the point? My theory is if millet or shu by itself is the plant, is the edible thing, by putting a knife next to it, make it into, because the knife was used you can view it as used to harvest the millet by cutting it, right? It can also be a more abstract term of because the knife was the metalware that in ancient times as a representation of the tools that human society used back then to cut not only crops but could cut other stuff as well, can be useful to make stuff. So that became like a tool symbol. And this millet icon next to this tool symbol make it into something not just for food source, make it repurpose it, millet, to something else. And according to scholars, millet was the ancient super glue. Okay, I laughed because because ancient footwear as well. Like there was before, Nike and all that sportswear, footwear that's heavily molded with contemporary material. It's only after industrial revolution that material science was able to afford to have such complicated shape formed in a factory. Pre-industrial age, people solved the footwear problem by combining or weaving grasses together and to fortify or reinforce the bottom of the shoe, which is the wear and tear part, more so than the rest of the shoe, that kind of like a glove for the foot to fit in. The sole of the foot was a special thing, and people to reinforce that add several layers. So it takes time to wear it through several layers of organic material, supposedly some grass or something fibrous from nature. Then people use millet as the super glue to glue several stacks or layers of this fiber to reinforce the sole of the footwear. So that's one use known to use millet as the glue material. But I'm pretty sure, like before the invention of glue, there are plenty of occasions in human lives that we need glue. So in this case, this millet as a food source was then repurposed, paired with knife icon to make it into part of the tool set for humans to solve their living even like a home improvement or their apparel and accessories problems. I would imagine ancient times probably your clothing as well, before cut and sew, before you have needle and a thread thing, probably things need to be glued together as a quick solution. Even in today's manufacturing, there's a glue. Of course, it's chemical glue, not the millet glue, but millet was, I mean, this glue function was useful even today in the apparel industry. So millet could be used in multiple ways. And because millet, as I checked, is considered a dry crop, meaning it doesn't require lots of water. So compared with rice is water intense crop. Millet has a shorter growing cycle, have a smaller grain, and then can be tolerant to dry conditions. So I would imagine this millet as a crop, as a food source, was widely used back in ancient times before irrigation could be established and figured out by the locals there to establish rice paddies, which is way more, I guess, more demanding, higher technology. So millet was the feeding source for people back then. All right, so expressions 黎民百姓. This one, even in today's everyday language, we still use it. Even if I don't really put too much thoughts to what does 黎民 mean? Because I know what 百姓 is. 百姓 means 100 family names. That serves as a generic term for, like in English, we have the average Joe, or we use Jane, or we use John, such general first names to refer to average person. But the Chinese use last name, use surnames, 姓, as a representation of a lineage. And when we have 100, it means multiple many supposedly cover every because yeah, Chinese have a variety of first names because that's given name. It can be whatever characters the parents want to have. Normally, it's a good wish names. And then surnames. Chinese only have like 100, mostly 100 of surnames. So it's really limited in our last name choices versus English, a lot more last names, relatively fewer first names. So Chinese use 100 surnames, means almost like every lineage on that land, all the family names covered, everybody basically. And the Li Ming, Min means people, and this Li, I translated as crowd because just like millet was used as a glue, millet could be used in other functions as well. And it implies that there are multiple of them, just like the footwear, the sole, you use multiple layers to stack up to make the ancient sole of your footwear. So this Li Ming, okay, sorry, Li Min, not Ming, because Li Ming is the next one. Min without the G sound means a crowd of people, multiple stacks, layers and layers of people. So imagine that generic people form. And Li simply means multitudes of them. That's kind of a densely populated people and hundreds surnames. So Li Min Bai Xing altogether give it a sense of is everybody included and it's commoners. And they may come with different last names and they may come in different from different walks of life. Of course, in ancient time, majority of them are farmers. So we use Li Min simply means they're useful people. Okay. Li Ming, in this case, this Li actually means until. It becomes a time term, becomes an abstract term. So there is a logic jump of there. How does super glue in ancient times got converted into a time term, become until? We don't know. I mean, I don't know so far. And Ming means the sun and the moon together means bright, means daybreak. So until the dawn time. So Li Ming means, I guess, daybreak. Li Shu. So here we have Min means people in general terms. Shu is another way to say people, the commoners. And Li, in this case, I translate it as common people. So almost view people that you govern as, they live in this land, they serve a purpose in this land, and from the ruler's point of view, even if this is Neolithic, not classical age, like big empires with a later development, but the Li as the food source, as the super glue, as a super useful ancient, material technology refer to everyday thing, everyday solution to everyday problems, and then it becomes everyday people. There's no glamour to it. I mean, the majority of people, most of us, were just considered in this category as a Li Shu. So here in this beautiful bow, that's colorful. The top portion here, the yellow, tiny little pearls of rice looking thing is millet. It's the Li we're talking about here. Thank you for your time. See you another day.